Hey everyone, and welcome. So, we all know about the basics of security, right? Things like passwords and firewalls. They're like the big digital walls we build to keep the bad guys out. But what happens when those walls get breached? I mean, how do we actually catch attackers once they're already inside? Well, that question takes us way beyond just prevention and deep into the fascinating world of cybersecurity detection. It turns out that pretty much everything a security professional does can be boiled down to one simple, really powerful formula. This isn't just some textbook theory, it's like the fundamental operating system for their entire job. And here it is. S equals P plus D plus R. Security is just prevention plus detection plus response. Now, all those things I just mentioned, the firewalls, the passwords, managing who gets access to what, all of that falls under P for prevention. It's all about trying to stop an attack before it can even happen. Because let's be real, no defense is ever perfect. Attackers are smart, they're creative, and sometimes they're gonna get through. So the really crucial question is, what happens next? And this is where we shift our focus to the D in our equation, detection. How in the world do you find an intruder that's already inside your house? The first major challenge with detection is, frankly, the noise. I mean, modern companies have dozens of different security tools, and every single one of them is constantly screaming alerts, logs, and data. It's an absolute flood of information, a total data deluge. So this is what you often see, and it's a real problem. We call it the too many screens issue. You've got your network team looking at their console, the endpoint team looking at theirs, the data security folks looking at another one. The left hand literally doesn't know what the right hand is doing. It's wildly inefficient, it's expensive, and it means a single attack could trigger alarms in 5 different places, sending 5 separate teams chasing the exact same ghost. Okay, so to solve this whole too many screens nightmare, the industry developed a pretty clever solution. It's called a SIEM. That stands for Security Information and Event Management System. You can just think of it as the central command center for all that chaotic security data. So how does this thing actually work? Well, first, it collects everything, every log, every alarm, all the data from everywhere, and dumps it into one massive database. But just having a giant pile of data isn't enough. The real magic is in correlation. Instead of 5 teams seeing 5 separate alarms for one attack, the SIEM connects the dots and says, hey, all these things are related, and flags it as a single event. And finally, it uses automated rules and intelligence to analyze that event and figure out what's a real threat versus what's just a false alarm. And that analysis happens in a few key ways. You've got your classic rule-based detection. If X, Y, and Z happen, sound the alarm. But it also hunts for anomalies. This is where things get cool. With AI and user behavior analytics, the system actually learns what normal looks like for every user, and then it flags stuff that just looks weird, like someone suddenly accessing files they never touch, or logging in at 3 a.m. from a different country. And finally, it spots long-term trends, which helps give management a clear picture of whether their security is actually getting better or worse over time. The SIEM is a really powerful bottom-up approach. It gathers all the hay before looking for the needle. But as you can imagine, building and searching that massive data haystack can be super slow and incredibly expensive. And that limitation led to a newer, more top-down technology called XDR, or Extended Detection and Response, which has a completely different philosophy. And honestly, the best way to get it is to think about that card game, Go Fish, right? Instead of making everyone throw all their cards into one giant pile on the floor to be searched, you just get to ask a direct question to everyone at the table. Hey, does anyone have any threes? This method is called Federated Search. See, an XDR system doesn't need to build that giant, expensive data lake like a SIEM does. It just leaves the data right where it is, on the laptops, in the network gear, in the cloud. And when an analyst has a question, it basically broadcasts it out to all those systems. Hey, everyone, search your own local data right now and tell me if you see the specific sign of an attack. It's a much more efficient, just-in-time way to investigate. So you might be thinking, okay, so is it SIEM versus XDR? Is the new thing replacing the old thing? And the answer is a big, emphatic no. The real power comes when you use them together. They are not competitors, they are partners. Here's how they work together beautifully. The SIEM, with its wide, bottom-up view, is like the smoke detector for your entire organization. It sees the big picture and is great at generating a high-quality alarm. It says, hey, there's smoke. But once that alarm goes off, you need to find the fire, and fast. That's where the top-down XDR comes in. An analyst uses its super fast search to go fish for specific evidence, quickly finding out exactly what's happening and why. So far, we've only been talking about reacting to alarms, but the most advanced, the most elite security teams, they don't just sit around and wait for the fire alarm to go off. They actively go looking for sparks. This is called proactive threat hunting. And here's why that is so incredibly important. According to the Ponemon Institute, the average time it takes for an organization to even identify that they've been breached is 200 days. Just let that sink in for a second. An intruder could be living in your house, digitally speaking, for over 6 months before you even know they're there. And yeah, it gets worse. If you add the average time it takes to actually contain the breach, you're looking at a grand total of 270 days. That's almost 9 months. That's the better part of a year that an attacker has free reign over your systems from the moment they get in to the moment you finally clean up the mess. The whole point of threat hunting is to shrink that timeline dramatically.
This represents a huge shift in mindset. A reactive investigation is, by its very nature, defensive. It starts with an alarm, and the question is always, what happened? But proactive threat hunting is offensive. It doesn't start with an alarm. It starts with a hypothesis from a skilled analyst who just asks, I wonder if an attacker could be hiding in our network this way. They use the exact same SIEM and XDR tools, but instead of waiting for a signal, they go out and create their own.
And that really is the core idea here. Detection can't just be a passive activity anymore. It has to be an active, ongoing hunt. Because the one thing you can absolutely be sure of is that the attackers are constantly hunting for a way into your environment. So the only way to get ahead is to hunt them right back.